welcome. My name is Ilya Radzinsky from TaxDome, and I'm here joined with Jeff and Joseph from TaxDome, and I'm super excited to be interviewing Mike Sylvester. I wanted to have this conversation because I truly am a fan of Mike's in that I genuinely believe that he has a lot to offer the profession. He's extremely open with his time, with his thoughts, and from an outsider's perspective, I find his commentary very valuable. And very much the opposite of being self-serving. So I very much respect Mike. I met him at the Twitter event in Denver last year, and he's had a lot of Twitter posts on a lot of the important topics in our industry. So I wanted to give him an opportunity and a platform to talk about them in more depth. So Mike, very happy to have you here today. Can you just give a little background of who you are and what you're doing?
Sure, I'm glad to be here. I'm Mike Sylvester. I'm a CPA in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'm the managing partner of a firm of 11. Accounting is my second career. I actually am a licensed electrician. I actually worked in nuclear power plants. I was actually a reactor operator on a nuclear submarine. So my career's pretty much been evenly split between carrying tools and doing accounting work. That's given me a very different perspective on accounting than the average person, I would say, who graduated from college at 22, went to a big accounting firm, and then progressed on from there. My biggest strength is I've never worked at another accounting firm. My biggest weakness, I've never worked at another accounting firm. It's just the way it is. Practice is in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Cheap cost of living. I don't pay for parking. My wife and I travel well. I've been to 37 countries. I've been to every continent. I've been to every ocean but one. I like to have a good time. I like to set my practice up so that I had time to do other things. Probably the easiest way to find me is on Twitter at Fort Wayne CPA. I'm running the collaboration room with Rebecca Driscoll. It's an area for accountants to gather to get a sense of community, get some advice, go to some live events. And then my CPA firm is SBSCPA You can find me on the internet. You can even reach out to me through my website.
Amazing. So Twitter is actually, like you said, how we kind of discovered you, because I find you've had a lot of opinions on important topics. And the first topic I want to talk about is acquisitions of accounting firms. And just to give a little bit of background for listeners, obviously many of you know this, but some of you have not. There is a lot of acquisition happening in business in general because of what's called a silver tsunami, which is the general idea that baby boomers, who own a tremendous amount of the small businesses in America, are set to be retiring over the next 10 to 15 years. And accounting is no different. So there's a lot of buying interest in both from PE, from other accounting firms in general of these businesses. So I want to talk a little bit to Mike and give you kind of a platform to explain just your thoughts on the options that owners of accounting firms have, right? So PE is just one option. But let's say you're, 55 years old and you're looking to retire in the next couple of years. What are your options?
So I'm 57. My wife's 55. Our third partner's 46. So we'll just use my options. I plan on retiring before I hit age 62. My wife plans on retiring just after she's 60. So we have two of the three partners in a CPA firm retiring on the same day. So that creates some different issues. So what my options are, honestly, is I could sell to PE, and I've recently had 3 different firms contact me, not PE directly, but CPA firms that are rolling up a bunch of CPA firms in an effort to get bought out by PE, and some of them are using PE's money to do that roll up. So one of your options is to sell to a big firm that wants to eventually be bought out by PE, or directly by PE if your firm is large enough. Another option is that you can groom your replacements. If I were to sell my firm in 4.5 years when I retire, and if you got a pen, 5/15/29, I will be retired. That is my retirement date. It is set. It has been set for a year. Why did I set it this early? I think it will take me 5.5 years to groom my replacements. So I am planning for the future. A lot of small firms do not plan for the future. They don't plan for the future at all. The Partners, especially at small firms, have all the client relationships, a lot of the specific knowledge. There's a lot of tribal knowledge. Things aren't written down. There's a lot of paper, and they struggle to retire. I just talked to two partners, the only two partners at a firm up the road. They're about $4 or $5 million a year. They actually plan on closing their doors and sending out a letter saying they're done instead of selling, because they think they've made their money and they don't have anybody in their firm they think can take it over. That's a wild way to go out, but I've seen several people go out that way. I've also seen people die at their desk. I've seen people have health issues at their desk. I mean, there's a lot of avenues that people go down. The problem is too many people are going down the unplanned route. You need to plan for your exit, and you need to groom your replacements properly.
So if I had to summarize kind of what you mentioned, there's the plan of selling, and you can sell to either PE or to another CPA firm, which may then be a part of a roll-up or not. You can transition to your existing employees, which is kind of what it sounds like you're thinking of doing. And another part is people transition to their family, but which is kind of that's really kind of the whole idea PE fits in, right? They're trying to get underpriced assets that have no natural transition plan, right? If you can, if people had the next generation take it over, it'd probably be a good scenario in most cases, because the deals are not super high revenue multiples, right? So in general, what I've seen is generally somewhere between 1.2 to 1.5 revenue, which is pretty low on a general scale compared to other businesses. And I think that's my personal opinion, is that's oftentimes the case because they know that there's no natural transition plan. So when you're thinking about these scenarios, you mentioned two things. Number one is you mentioned a date and a plan. So if you could talk about specifically what it is you're actually planning on doing over the next 5 years to be prepared. And if you could also talk about whether you've also considered transition plan to family and how you settled on transitioning to employees.
Okay, so transitioning to family, a lot of firms do, but the problem is your family member has to become largely a CPA, which is not an easy process. There are fewer people becoming CPAs than there are exiting the profession, and that has been the case for several years and is projected to continue. I actually talked to my kids about it, and my kids looked at me and said, "Dad, I don't want to do what you do. I have no desire to do what you do." My son is currently on a destroyer heading towards San Diego after being in the Red Sea and in the Middle East. And my daughter is currently becoming a financial planner at Vanguard. So my kids aren't interested. My partner's daughter has no interest at all. So between the three children of our partners, they all said, no, we don't want to do what you do. So that was not an option for us. I do see it at some firms, but not necessarily a majority of firms. What am I doing to groom replacements? Well, what we've done is we hire based on wanting to hire people who we think could step up and become partners. We communicate with our staff when we hire them. One of the first things I tell people during the interview process is how much money I make. And that will shock a lot of people here. Everybody in my office knows how much money I make, because I want them to want to step up and make that much money themselves. I do that on day one. Everybody knows how much our partners make. It's public knowledge in our firm. And that's pretty wild for some people. But I didn't grow up in an accounting firm, so I don't think like a traditional accountant in some ways. What am I doing to groom replacements? Well, we had a meeting last week. I presented a qualification card. I was in the Navy. In the Navy, everything was done through a qualification card. So there's a series of items. Hey, you have to learn how to do tax planning. And each partner has to initial on this line that you know how to do tax planning. You have to know how to do payroll. Any one partner can sign this. You have to be able to cover the front. You have to be able to do, we'll say, a list of 15 things. Half of them, one partner can sign, and the other half, maybe all three sign. When this qual card's done, and when you're a CPA or an EA, you are a tax manager that day. You get a $4 an hour raise, and we're going to start moving some of our clients to you, and this will help you become a partner. Then there's a separate card after you're a tax manager. Now, here's how you become a partner. And we want you to be partners by 5, 15, 29. So if you want to make this much money, you should get moving.
So very much I really like the idea of both a first principles approach, right? So as opposed to this is just the way things are done, but to how you think they should be done based off of other experiences you've had, and not just because this is how we do things. So I very much respect that, and I'm a big fan of taking cross pollinate, right? So you're taking your experiences in the Navy and bringing it, applying it here, which I think is really smart overall as a high level. And but you mentioned kind of career paths. Your career path was different, right? So your career path wasn't traditional Big Four and on. Now I want to transition a little bit into those career paths that we're talking about. And right now, people are talking about how there's not enough CPAs going into the industry, like you mentioned. What are the traditional career paths that are there? And then can you tell me a little bit about how that differs with how you envision it within your firm?
So the traditional career paths are you can either work in accounting, and if you choose public accounting, then you will likely work for a public accounting firm. But if you're in accounting, you can also choose to work in a private accounting firm, basically for one large company. And the split in accounting is between public and private. What I do is public. There's a further split in accounting between tax and audit. My firm doesn't do audits. We don't do reviews. We don't do compilations. I've never done one in my life. I don't know anything about them. Nothing. Zero. Nada. So we're a tax firm. We're a public firm. So we work for a bunch of different clients, and they tend to be smaller. So in public accounting, you generally go work for a firm. You progress up the chain, and then you either move into private accounting because you think you're working too many hours in public and you get a different job, or you move up the ladder in public accounting. One of the problems with PE coming into public accounting is they want to make between 14 and 20% on every investment. So some of that money the partners used to take is gone. It has to go to PE. They have to make money on their investment. So a lot of people are in public accounting and stick with public accounting, even due to the hostile hours, especially at the Big Four, and with the idea they'll become a partner. The number of people who become partners at the Big Four is tiny as a percentage of the people who enter. The number of people who become partners at smaller firms is much, much higher because it's less competitive. There's less laying off of people. It's a different process. But my firm is different because my staff work on average 1,904 hours a year, and they have the entire life of my firm. So my staff don't work 2,300 hours. So at most firms today, people can't hire, and it's a huge problem, right? I can hire because I just show them what hours we work, and they're like, really? Are you serious? Is this a joke? And then they come in and they work.
So is the issue simply in hours perspective, right? Would you say that's the biggest issue in hiring is that in most accounting firms, you're expected to work a lot more than people today want to work. Is that the core of the issue?
I think it is the core of the issue. In my mind, it is. And as I'm talking to my staff and encouraging them to become a tax manager and then possibly a partner, I actually wrote up a very private document and said, here's how much money I've made every year of my life. Here's many hours I've worked every year of my life. And note, I didn't work less when I worked as an electrician in a steel mill or in a nuclear power plant than I do today. I worked the same. My generation worked more than you. That doesn't make you wrong. But we've designed our firm so that you're only going to have to work 1,904 hours a year. One of my biggest goals is we are slowly dropping the hours the partners work. And this year we averaged just north of 2,100. So we're working maybe 200 hours on average more a year. But a lot of people listening to this say, Mike, you only work 2,100 hours a year, and they just go into shock. Well, I'm a little higher than our average, but our average is just over 2,100 hours for the partners. Different animal, different thing I'm selling, right, to potential partners.
But I guess just to delve into that a little more, is the issue with hours for non-partners, right? If they were all partners, do you think they'd have as much of an issue working those hours, or is it only because they feel that it's not as impactful on their compensation and they don't have as much leverage as they do?
I don't think they want to work that many hours, even if they are a partner. I think work-life balance has become a much bigger deal. I think people are more interested in their health, which is smart. I wish I would have done that a long time ago. I think people more monitor the amount of stress they have in their lives. And I think the younger people, and in my firm, we're talking about age 25 to 32 are the people I'm talking to. They don't want to work 2,500 hours a year. And the people I've hired from other firms are used to working 2,300 hours a year. They come here and they're on vacation. They're like, my God, this is great, Mike. And, we only work 32 hours a week the last 37 weeks of the year. And my staff loves that. They have 37 3-day weekends in a row. And more firms are going that route, and it's going to hurt the big firms who aren't going that route.
So how is it so? But the firms that are being bought, they're being bought with a presumption of obviously continuation of things done as before. So how do you envision kind of this playing out, where you have PE and other accounting firms buying firms with the expectations that things are going to continue as is, or perhaps work even more because they want to make even more investment and give more clients, versus what you're saying is that people want to work less and less. I guess how do you see this playing out?
Oh, I have a very strong opinion on how I think it's going to play out. So I think what's going to happen is PE is going to buy these firms. They're going to outsource as many jobs as humanly possible overseas, especially to India. They're going to let go their staff that are low performers or basically don't want to work the hours they want. They're just going to let them go. They're going to raise their prices significantly because they always do. And I'm going to tell you, for firms like mine, the best thing that can happen for me is PE can keep buying a bunch of big accounting firms. I am gaining so many clients from top 50 firms today, it staggers my mind. Until 18 months ago, I never gained a new client from a top 50 firm. I've gained 10 in the last 18 months because people are just getting chopped up and spit out if they're small clients. I think that our business is relationship based, and I think PE, I don't think they understand that. I think they can replace the partners. I think they can automate everything, use AI and use technology. And I'm not saying that's bad. I think they can successfully do that, and I think they will benefit from it. But I think they're losing track of the relationship aspect of it. And I think that means they're going to churn through clients. And I think PE is going to buy a whole bunch more big companies, and I think I'm going to gain a whole bunch more big clients from them.
So actually, that's a great segue, I guess, into the future of the relationship. The future of the industry, and I guess AI playing into this. So, how do you envision? Right, everybody's, just to kind of set the stage here. Most people are worried: am I going to get automated away? Right, that's simply a fear that many people have, many professionals have across every industry. So let's focus specifically on accounting, on tax, on bookkeeping, on what we're talking about. And how do you envision the role of AI and what it means for the industry in the next, say, 5 to 10 years? And nobody knows the future of AI in 30 years. Let's talk 5 to 10, and just your thoughts on how it's going to trend.
I think accountants who use AI are going to have a significant competitive advantage over those who don't. I think that if you're a lower end employee in accounting and you refuse to understand how to use technology and you refuse to learn how to use AI, your days are numbered, because I think you're going to at least have to know how to use it to maintain your job. I think it's just going to be part of the skills that everybody has to learn. I think overall AI will probably be positive for the accounting industry. We have a shortage of accountants. I think that there's a lot of risks associated with AI and using it too early, but I think there's maybe even more risks about ignoring AI and doing everything manually by hand without learning what AI will allow you to do.
So I think that's a good. So I agree with you. I guess my sense is that a lot of times AI is a misnomer, right? The way to think about it is AI is more of a broad, the way people are talking, the way we're talking about it is not specifically AI in and of itself AI, but more so just technology to allow humans to leverage their work, right? So if you want to work, I believe you mentioned 2,100 hours instead of 2,500 hours, you could do 20% less work, or you could simply be a lot more efficient in the work that you're doing, right? And I think that's where what we're talking about is happening, is that not that not that your clients are going to expect 20% less work, but that technology enables you to work more efficiently, every one of your staff to be more efficient, and that if you don't take advantage of the opportunities available for you today, you're going to lose out to the firms that are using that. Would you agree with that statement?
I do agree with that statement, and that's actually part of the reason why we're implementing a tax management system, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing, only different. I think you have to leverage technology, whether that be a tax practice management system, whether that be AI, whether that be software that collects data from clients so that you don't have to do it manually. I think you have to leverage technology, AI, etc., to make yourself more efficient. And I think what's lost in the shuffle, not by you, but by some people, is there's also a cost. I mean, your technology cost as a firm is going to go up. And these companies are going to charge more and more money for this because they know that they're allowing you to be more efficient. It's not going to lower the cost of what CPAs charge. It's actually probably going to increase the cost. But I do agree with you. Firms that do it correctly should be able to take automation, AI, technology systems, and instead of working 2,500 hours, work 2,300. Or like me, instead of working 2,100, maybe I can work 2,000. Over 5 years, maybe we can make the 2,100 hours I work 1,900 hours. Maybe we can make it 1,800 hours. I'm not sure.
So I think, I guess, but that the main reason of why you're working, right, and the reason why you mentioned you're gaining clients, and as opposed to some other firms are losing, is the relationship, right? They feel that and I guess that's where, in my mind, I guess to add some 2 cents, in that I believe that the accounting industry will not be upended by AI in the sense that accountants will no longer be needed, right? I think that some people are naturally worried about, am I going to go away? And in my opinion, the answer is no, so long as you have a relationship. So in my mind, the lower end of the market has always been technology has been available for years. TurboTax does, I don't know, north of $70 million returns a year. 70 million returns a year. That's the low end. And that didn't exist, 20 years ago. So that's obviously been chipping away. At the same time, the accounting profession and revenues as a whole have grown, right? Why? Because businesses that value relationships, more high net worth people that hire accountants, they hire you for the relationship. And I guess my takeaway from this is that you the profession, you the accountant, you the service provider, need to make sure you maintain that relationship, because that's what they really value. And you can actually raise prices while doing that, because we actually just released a client report where we interviewed over 1,000 taxpayers. A lot of times we're having this conversation of what me and you think, but we're not the people that are hiring you, right? And the answer there was they actually really value the relationship, and they're actually even willing to pay more for certain things, such as speed, because that's what they're worried about. So meaning that you can actually find different ways to make your business more profitable by having better relationships, and maybe focus on other things that help you build that, as opposed to worrying about, I simply need to get 50 more clients or X amount of more clients to get my revenues up. You can find the optimal clients within your stack. And I see that happening. I see what people are talking about all the time, of finding your ideal clients and making sure that you're serving them. Do you have any thoughts on, how you think about that within your business, of what is an ideal client for you and making sure that you have the right relationship?
So I really agree with that, all of that. And the reason that we're gaining clients from big firms, and I'll just say this briefly, it's because the relationship has failed. It's because it's almost every time they had a partner who's been with them for 15 years. Maybe starting 4 years ago when COVID hit, we all got swamped. The relationship started to sour. They retired 2 years ago. They have a new partner who does not know them and does not know as much as the prior partner in their opinion and does not take the time to answer their questions. That's why I gain clients right there. That's all of it for the big clients that I'm onboarding. As far as my firm and what we're doing, well, you have to call low-end work where they don't want to pay you, and that's hard to do. A lot of accounting firms, and I need to go down this path faster, are deciding that they will drop a large number of lower-end clients so that they can serve higher-end clients better at a higher fee structure. And a lot of firms have realized correctly that if you have fewer clients, you can do a better job for them. There's less time serving your small clients. And hopefully we've all heard of the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of your problems come from 20% of your clients. So get rid of the 20% of your clients. Now at my firm, I've created a marketing funnel, and 530 different potential new clients will reach out to my firm this year with $0 spent in advertising. So I can let go whoever I want. If I want to let go 20% of my clients, I can. What the larger firms are also doing is the firm that I'm gaining clients from, they're all firms with 3 to 7 million in revenue a year. Well, these are big accounting firms that have some really big clients. So these are their low performing clients. And instead of just sending them a letter and saying you're fired, they just double their fees until they leave.
That's the private equity model, right? Isn't that it's doing the private equity model without private equity, right?
Yes, it is.
Right. And so actually, but I guess to counteract that, isn't that just healthy business practice? If you want to find, where you are on that curve. I mean, there's a saying, if nobody thinks your price is too high, you're not charging enough. Right. So do you think there's truth to that?
I do. I'm not saying their business model is bad. I'm saying that there's a great benefit to me because of the way they're churning through their lower end clients. But I'm going to tell you, reality is everybody should be doing that. Everybody's not doing that. It started at the bigger firms. Smaller firms need to curate their client lists. And I said that I have 530 different potential new clients that will call me. And some of these people have 3-4 tax returns, many businesses, but 530 different ones. It'll be more next year. Why will it be more, you say? Not because I'm spending money, because I'm not. It'll be more because more and more CPA firm owners and more tax pro firm owners and more EAs are going to hear what you and I are saying. And they're going to say, man, I gotta drop my bottom 10% of my clients. And when they drop it, what do? Well, they call somebody else, right?
So how do you as a business, as a partner, I guess, how do you control that within your firm to make sure that the clients that are leaving or being let go are because you want to let them go and because you don't find it to be profitable, or you want to focus your areas elsewhere, as opposed to what you see happening from these other firms where they feel the relationship has been soured? How do you control that? How do you create quality control around that?
So I do that pretty differently. I am not saying that my method is a better business practice, because it probably is not a better business practice, but it makes me feel good at night. When I'm going to let people go, I fire them. I let them know with at least 3 months before year end that they're not going to be a client as of the end of the year, and they need to find another person to help them because they are not my client. I don't do it by raising their prices a huge amount until they leave. I would make more money if I did. I'm just not built that way. My preference is to, if they're bad clients, they should go away. And in fact, twice a year, I ask my staff who they want to fire. We have meetings about this twice a year. Did this person irritate you? Is this person hard to deal with? And we follow through. We may not fire all of them, but we fire most of them.
I think that's healthy. I think that's definitely healthy in that if you allow, so I actually very much believe this as well, is that your staff need to believe that you're behind them, right? Because it sets the tone for the industry. So, for example, on our side, if I feel we try to believe in fairness, right? And if somebody is, I believe, treating our team unfairly, I have no problem kind of letting them know that and saying if this continues, we won't have a business relationship going forward. I think that's healthy, and I think that's just practice that every organization should do. So it sounds very similar to kind of what you're describing here, because we should all treat each other with respect, regardless of regardless of business relationships. At the end of the day, we're all people, and we need to be cordial with each other. But I guess my question was a little less about the client's side, but how do you do the quality control within your team to making sure that the client doesn't feel that the relationship has soured, or that your team is able to keep up the good relationships that it sounds like, the standard of work that you're expecting from other people that are not, the founders of the firm.
So it's really hard because whenever you move somebody from a partner to a staff member is primarily handling them, the client does not like it. So what we try to do hard is not make this change very often. We do make it, but I have learned that a lot of the people that I onboard from other firms, in fact, I think maybe every one of these 10 big clients that I've onboarded is upset because a different person did their tax return every year. Well, we don't do that. We track in our system who does the return. We don't change it very often. And if we touch them monthly, we rarely change who it is. It's a long process to try to get them to reach out to the staff instead of the partner. For our clients who have been with us for over 20 years, it's really, really, really hard. But what we do is we listen to our clients when they complain about our staff. We talk to them. We listen to our staff when they complain about our clients, and we talk to them. And we try to be as involved as we can because we can't serve everyone. And if I had a staff member that regularly was getting complained about, I would do something about it.
So you mentioned you have the meetings with your staff about just general clients and how things are going. How else what other feedback loops do you have within your firm, just in general, about your business, things you can be improving process wise, about pricing, or any other feedback that you're getting from your team? How do you structure that, and what is your process?
So internally in the firm, everybody has a recurring monthly task that's due by the 30th of the month that they have to spend a half hour, and they have to fill out a spreadsheet that's got 6 different workbooks, and they have to say, I would like to be trained on this. I would like to fire this client. I am unhappy with you about this. I think we should change this inside the firm. They have to fill it out. And then we get together every 6 months and go through them in person as a group. And we say, hey, this was your comment from this day. Here's what we're going to do about it. We probably do something about 80% or more. The other 20% would probably say, we hear what you're saying, but we're not going to change it for X, Y, and Z.
So first off, I think that's brilliant. How did you come up with this? Is this also from the Navy? Is this from elsewhere? How did you come up with this practice?
So it's only about 3 years old. What we figured out was we kept telling people we want your input, but we weren't getting it. So the only way we could really get input was by giving everybody a task that they had to mark off, so they did it. And then if you really want to get a good result from that, then you really got to sit down every 6 months in person so that they know that you're taking their comments seriously. And so you can talk to them. In fact, that meeting's due in the next week or two. I will be working on it before year end.
So actually, I guess this is another good time to kind of plug your community. I think this would be super helpful for you to kind of, I don't know if this is the kind of content that you cover there, but I think in general, this is also something I think would be super valuable to people, just to share your workflow around this in your community. I think it might be really helpful. In the collaboration room, I believe is the name. I think that's exactly what you described, because I think that a lot of businesses this is simply something that, goes over the head of so many businesses. They're just too busy. They're head down in their work, and they're not thinking about this. And that, retrospective approach that you have within your firm, I think is critical in any industry. We do similar things in our business, but we're always trying to improve around that. But specifically for small to medium-sized firms, I think what you described, in my opinion, would be super valuable.
So in the collaboration room, we do a lot of that. You're going to put in the show notes, a link to the to how people can learn more. But what we do is we have about 13 or 14 live events a month that people who are members can come to. In fact, later on today, I'm running a new firm group, and it's 10 people who started firms who I'm doing a session 3 weeks in a row, once a week for an hour, where we talk about this is what I would do if I were restarting a firm. This is what I think you should do. I basically have 3 hours of stuff that I go through. I leave a lot of time for questions. This is the second group like that I've done. And then starting in January, we're going to meet every other month. And hey, how's your new firm journey going? But we also do sessions on pricing and AI, and here's this software you can use, or all kinds of different things. And then we have a person who is an outsourcing expert who's doing a session tomorrow. We have a person who's a state and local tax deduction expert doing a session the next day. We actually had an expert do a session on TaxDome. So we're getting ready to form some mastermind groups. We have a community. We've got over 170 people. It's going great. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess the reason why we're talking again is because I feel that I discovered you on Twitter, and I think that a lot of people use Twitter for many different reasons, but I think Twitter has really evolved to become this niche platform, where I think people like you that are subject matter experts are willing to give their opinions on things and really kind of talk about what they're seeing. So again, thank you for that. The community definitely appreciates that. And I want to talk specifically about one of the posts that you made recently about your consulting gigs for these private equity transactions. So I think coming back to the first topic we were talking about. Now, can you tell me a little bit about the size of the firms that were being kind of looked at, the general range, who was looking to buy them, what that process looked like, and generally your thoughts on it? I'll have some follow-up questions.
So I've done north of 100 different consulting engagements in the last 18 months where somebody hires me to do something. Maybe I just did one yesterday about somebody inherited some really big clients. They were really uncomfortable with basis. So they basically wanted me to teach them how to do basis for these complicated companies. But that's not most of what I do. Most of what I do, it doesn't involve private equity, but what it involves is small firms, and it involves people wanting to know if they should buy into a small firm or not. And I just have one that I'm working on now where it's a small firm and they want to know how they could let their employees buy in. So it's mostly been firms below 5 million. All have been below 10 million. Most of them probably run between 1 million and 6 million in revenue. And a lot of it is, Mike, should I buy into this firm? And mostly it's their firm. And it's mostly somebody who's 35, 40, who has worked at a firm for 5 or 10 years. The owner is 75. The owner is looking to get out. And they basically want to hire me to tell them if they should buy that firm, how much they should pay for that firm, how they should do due diligence on that firm if that's necessary, and how you structure a deal like that. And 80% of the time or more, I tell them don't buy in. It's shocking how often I look at the firm and say, I would just start from fresh. I think you can do better.
So what are the reasons that, okay, so I guess, obviously every deal is different and so forth, but if we're going to speak kind of in broad strokes here, what are the pros and what are the positive things that are like, this is a good buy? What are the negative things? And then we can talk a little bit about how, if you are in that position, if you are that, $1 to $10 million firm owner, and you are, a boomer that's going to be looking to probably do some kind of retirement, transition period in the next 10 years, what are the things that, what are the signals that people like you and other buyers are looking at that is good, and what is a bad signal?
So the firms that people don't want is what's easier to talk about. People don't want firms with a lot of paper anymore. People don't want firms where the average employee is over 65. And I've looked at several firms where one or more partners, all the partners are over 65. I just did a consulting engagement where there was one owner and he's 83. and he wants to stay on for 5 more years. His wife is the admin. His daughter is one of the employees. And there's just so many other red flags. The average employee at that firm is 69 years old. So you buy that firm. How long is everybody going to be there? Look at how they price. If they are far underpriced, it's hard to raise people's prices. You have to, but you're going to lose some. Do they have good relationships with their clients? Are they in a niche? Do they have year-round work? Do they work too much during busy season? Is it a place where people want to work? Can you hire? Is it rural? Are they virtual? Do they have technology? Are they learning how to use AI? Basically, what people don't want to buy overall are firms that are not don't use technology well. And I'm not an ageist. I'm 57 years old. If everybody is about to retire in the next 5 years, you might have a problem, right? Because it's not easy to hire people. It's far easier to see a firm that people don't want than one that is. What do people want to buy? They want to buy firms that have a lot of year-round work. They don't want to be an income tax mill. They want to buy a firm that prices at least average, if not better. They want a firm with processes. They want a firm with technology. They want a firm with a younger workforce. That's what people want.
So I think that's a kind of a really good kind of lay of the land. Well, let's say I'm a $2 million firm. I'm 65. I've got two other partners that are, north of 50, and I've got, 3 junior staff that are kind of working there. I am traditionally, I'm the firm that you're describing that nobody wants. I am mostly either paper or kind of, some people still do drop-offs or things like mailed in the documents. We do have some processes, but they're not ideal. I want to retire in 5 years. There's no such thing as a bad deal. There's only a bad price, right? So theoretically, somebody's still going to buy what I have. They just might be able to pay a much lower price and a lower multiple for that based off of all the the signals that you're describing. So what can I do in the next 5-year plan to change that? And not just, high level, like what advice would you give me?
So you're a 65-year-old firm owner with a firm similar in size to mine. You have 2 partners who are in their 50s. And as long as your junior staff is younger, you can do it because you're not what I'm describing. What I'm describing is a firm with 3 partners who are over 65. But what I'm going to recommend you do, upgrade your technology, get rid of your paper, see if you have people who can step up. And if you do, identify them now, get a commitment from them now, qualify them to take over if that's your goal, and tighten your processes, fire your bad clients, increase your prices now so they don't have to. Transfer your relationships to other people because you're the 65-year-old partner. You probably have all the big relationships, and that's a problem because that's what you and I were talking about early on that we think PE is going to struggle with. You have to transfer those relationships, and it takes time.
What's been your experience in doing that into introducing the client, right? Because I think so many people are afraid, right? They're probably like, I've been working with this client for 30 years. They're not going to want to work with some 30-year-old. They're going to look at them as some, kid. How do you manage that transition with that, not necessarily just drop them off, but how do you introduce that? How do you actually introduce it to the client?
It has been really hard. So I have told people, look, my practice is changing. I have to be less involved. I have too many clients. You are a client that my staff can do most of the work with. So here's Shane. Shane is going to deal with 90% of your questions. You should talk to Shane first. I will handle the high-end tax planning. I will sign your tax return. I will review your tax return. I will send you an email and potentially a Loom video explaining your tax return. That I will do. Shane will do everything else. For new clients, it's easier because if they actually walk in my office, I walk them to the person's office who's going to take them on. And I say, hey, here's Josie. She's great. she's going to handle your bookkeeping every month. She's going to handle your payroll. So for new clients, it's easier, right? Because you set the expectation. It's harder for clients you've had for 20 years. I have moved all of mine over. I have successfully done it. I don't do any client work directly like bookkeeping, payroll, etc. My staff does it all. I think the key is to choose the right staff person, make sure they're trained, and then make sure that the client knows what your expectations are. Is it painful? It can be. Have I had to let people go over it? I have. Have I had people let me go over it? I have.
Got it. I mean, so it's like all things in life, I guess the question I would ask you is, are those fears that people have founded, right? Should they, their fear is to make that transition there. Do you believe that is a correct fear, or they need to just do it and be kind of go with the consequences? I guess.
I believe the fear is correct. I believe the fear is overblown. I think you can get around it. How many clients that I wanted to keep left over that? Less than 3%. I think what people think is if I transition my staff being the front person, I'm going to lose most of my clients. You're not. You're going to lose a minority of your clients if you do it right. I think I lost, we'll say 2%. That's okay, right? I can lose 2%. I have 530 new people calling a year. I think the key is to make a funnel of leads so that you can make these changes that better your life.
And where the other part, thinking about it from the client's perspective, you've had a relationship with them for, say, that 65-year-old owner or managing partner's had a relationship for 10, 15 years. Your firm knows everything about them. You're intertwined into that business, into that, into that family or whomever you're working with. Their choices are either continue and have that natural transition, and you're still there, right? You didn't just drop them off. Your office is next door. They can still talk to you if anything is amiss, versus going to a completely new firm and starting from scratch. They're probably going to prefer staying with you so long as you, like you said, make the transition process clear, make it natural. Just to give kind of people a parallel in the software world, the way it works is you have salespeople, then you have implementation managers, then you have an account manager afterwards, and you've got customer success, and they all work at different parts of the life cycle. To give that parallel, that would be the expectation that the person that brings in the client, which is sales, sticks with the client the entire life cycle of the way. Most businesses and software companies and other non-accounting firms don't operate in that way. The relationship is with the overall firm, not with the overall individual, but the client must feel that relationship is there. They're not just a number, but they have a strong relationship, and that trust that we were talking about is what's going to, really make the success of the profession, not for the next couple of years, but longer term.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, I can tell that we've done this pretty well at my firm, because now there's a lot of people who think my staff is the partner in charge of the account because they talk to them so much. I don't consider that failure. I consider that success. I have a growing number of people that call and ask for a specific person. I have a growing number of people that I actually do really review every return. I do send every email, but I actually have clients who really think I don't, and they think my staff does it all. And I consider that victory. That means that I have transitioned them. And I think one of the other things that a lot of people do who are exiting is, in your example, you said, hey, I'm a 65-year-old firm owner that wants to leave in 5 years. I think that's doable, but that's not what's happening. What's happening is the 65-year-old firm owner has a health emergency or an actual health problem, and now they have to leave in a year, and they haven't done anything to get ready. 5 years is plenty of time. You don't need that even 5 years. But you do need more than 6 months.
So you need to, I guess my takeaway from this, the advice is you need a plan. Whether or not you actually choose to retire in 5 years, or you're as, goal-oriented and like you have a date, maybe not everybody's going to have a specific date, but regardless, you know that date is going to come at some point.
Right.
You have a plan, whether that's in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. You need to have a plan in place, not because who knows what happens in life. Emergencies happen, things happen. It's better to be prepared versus kind of, doing everything last minute at that point. I mean, like anything, but specifically also with regards to running a firm.
Well, I have a 5-year plan, and I will end up having a 4-year plan when we're on 5/15/20 25, because I'll be 4 years from retirement instead of 5. We'll rewrite the 5-year plan. We'll go through what we missed. We'll add some things. We won't spend a ton of time on this, but we'll go through it. And the people that I want to buy the firm, well, they have a copy of the plan too.
Mike, this has been, at least for me, very insightful. So I want to give a huge thank you to you. I think that the community will really benefit from this conversation and kind of your thoughts on it. Any final parting words as we finish? I know you have a hard stop.
No, this has been a lot of fun. If anybody wants to reach out to me, the best way to do it is through my website, sbscpagroup.com, or on Twitter @FortWayneCPA.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.